Welcome to Mode Bespoke. I'm Atenas, and today we're crocheting the Cozy House Socks. Now this is a beginner-friendly pattern that you can crochet in 2 hours or less. Let's get started. So here's a look at the socks we're going to be crocheting today. Now these are women's socks, and this is size 6 to 8 in US shoe sizes. You can crochet these in any other size that you want, and I do have resizing notes on the written pattern. Now for the materials, I'm using a cake, and this is the Mandala Ombres cake. I don't think I'm saying that right, but you're going to need one of these. This is a medium size 4 yarn, and here are some of the information for the yarn in case you can't find this wherever you're at. You're going to need an H hook, which is a 5mm crochet hook, and you'll need a pair of scissors, a yarn or a tapestry needle, measuring tape, and I also suggest that you get either 2 stitch markers or 2 safety pins. The PDF pattern for this project is available on my website. I'm going to leave a link down in the description box below. So we're going to begin with a slip knot. Let me grab some yarn here. You're going to leave a bit of a tail of yarn, so just a few inches will do. You're going to wrap the yarn around 2 fingers. You're going to insert your hook behind this front loop. You're going to grab the yarn that's behind it and pull that through. Then you just remove your fingers and you tighten the knot by pulling on the threads of yarn. So to tighten the knot even further, pull on the threads individually. We're going to begin with a chain of 9. So the chain is just going to set up the width of our sock. So for an adult sock, you would chain 9. For a kid's sock, you can chain about 7, and then for a baby sock, you can start with a chain of 4. The process is basically the same. You're just going to have to use measurements if you choose to resize the sock. So we're going to begin with a chain, and for those of you that don't know how to stitch a chain, you're going to yarn over. So you're going to wrap the yarn around your hook, and you're going to pull this top loop through the bottom loop. So there's 1. So yarn over and pull through for 2, yarn over, pull through for 3. Continue to make a chain in whatever length it is that you need for your size. So I'm going to make a chain of 9 stitches. We're going to begin the first stitch of our round on the second stitch of the chain. So you're going to skip this first stitch and you're going to work into the second one. So you're going to insert your hook into the stitch and you're going to yarn over and you're going to pull up a loop. So yarn over and pull the hook through the stitch. You're going to have 2 loops on your hook, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through the first loop on the hook. So yarn over and pull through 1. You're going to be left with 2 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops. So that was an extended single crochet. We're going to do the same in each of the stitches of the chain. Leave that very last stitch because we're going to work on that one together. So let's go into the next stitch and we're going to do the same. So insert your hook into the stitch. You're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. When you have 2 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over and pull through 1. So yarn over and pull through the first stitch on your hook, so that first loop. You're going to be left with 2 loops, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops. So continue to work an extended single crochet in all of the stitches along the chain, and I'll see you when we get to that last stitch. Alright, so I'm at the final stitch of the chain. So this one is going to be the stitch that we need to turn our crochet work. So we're going to have to crochet some increases just to start creating the round. So you're going to work 3 extended single crochets into that same stitch. So there's the first one. I'm going to insert my hook into that same stitch and I'm going to make a second one. And then I'm going to insert my hook into that same stitch a 3rd time to create the 3rd extended single crochet. This is going to create the turn on our work. Once you've got this turn, you're going to turn your work towards the side, so you're working on the bottom side of the chain, and you're going to continue working your extended single crochets. Now, you're not going to work in this first stitch because you just did your 3 extended stitches right in here. You're going to work into the second stitch. So that's the second stitch of this row. You're going to insert your hook into the stitch and just work an extended single crochet. And this time you're only going to work 1. So along the edge or along the bottom part of the chain, you're just going to crochet 1 extended single crochet in every one of these stitches until you get to the end of the row. And then I've got one more left. And once you get to the end of the row, this is going to become the end of your round, and this is round 1. So once you work that final stitch, you can place a stitch marker on that stitch just to keep track of your rounds, and then we're going to begin round number 2. So I'm going to keep track of my rounds using my stitch counter ring. So I'm going to place this here on a 1, grab my stitch marker, and I'm just going to place that on that last stitch. If you don't have a stitch marker, a safety pin or just a little scrap of yarn will do. You just need to be able to keep track of your rounds. Once you've got this all placed, we're ready to begin round 2. Now for round 2, you're going to begin on that topmost stitch of the round, so this center one right up here. You're going to crochet 3 extended single crochets into that same stitch. So like we did on this side, you're going to do the same thing up on this stitch. So we're going to begin with the first one. So here's 1, and then we've got 2, and then 3. So it's 3 extended single crochets, and then along the sides, you're just going to crochet one of the extended stitches until you get to the end. At the end, you're going to work another increase. So in this topmost stitch, so top center stitch, you're going to work 3 extended single crochets, and you're going to go all the way around. Once you reach your stitch marker, that's going to be round number 2. You need a total of 4 rounds. So work your 4 rounds, and your work is going to look like this. So this is the toe section of your sock. At this point, if you're making these socks for you, try them on. It should cover all of your toes. Make sure it is wide enough and it fits comfortably, and you can wiggle your toes and it's comfortable. If you're making this for someone else, you can use the sizing chart. So look in the description box. I'll give you a link to the Yarn Council's foot sizing chart. You can find sizes from baby to adult. Use the sizing chart. And the size you're looking for is the foot circumference. So the foot circumference I need for my size sock is about 7 inches. So I'm just going to measure along the bottom part of the sock, so along the bottom part of the fabric, and make sure it's the size I need. If it is too wide, just remove 1 round. If it is too small, then just add another round. Make sure that if you make any changes to the pattern, you write that down. Next, we're going to work on the body of the sock. For the body of the sock, you no longer need to add increases on either side. So along the sides where you would normally do the 3 extended single crochets, you're only going to work 1. You're going to work 12 rounds for the body of the sock. So beginning right here on this next stitch, this is at the end of round number 4. You're going to work 1 extended single crochet for every stitch of the round. So remember, you don't need to add 3 at the end of either side anymore. You're not increasing your sock anymore. So all we're doing is adding length to the body of the sock. Once you have completed your 12 rounds, try on your sock. So if it's for you, it should fit. There should be some space between your leg and the sock. And if you're making it for somebody else, or you would rather use measurements, then it should measure half of the total foot length for the sock in whatever size that you are making. So just grab your measuring tape, measure from the top of the toes all the way to the bottom of the fabric, and make sure it is half of the total foot length. All right, so I've made it all the way around. So here's that last top center stitch where I would have crocheted 3 extended single crochets. I just have to crochet the 1 and then continue working the rest of the round. So let me work my 12 rounds. I'll see you again here in just a moment. All right, so I've completed all 12 rounds, and this is what my sock looks like so far. So at this point, you need to measure the sock. So either try it on, make sure it fits comfortably, or use the sizing chart and a measuring tape to make sure that that is half of the total foot length for the sock size that you are making. Once you have reached that, crochet an additional 2 to 3 stitches so that you have a little bit of an overlap in the fabric. So it should look a little like this. So you'll have these extra stitches here along the side. These are going to add a little bit of the height to the sock. So once we get to the leg part of the sock, we're going to need these stitches just to make the sock a little bit taller. We're now going to work on the gusset. Now for the gusset part of the sock, you're just going to work rows. So the gusset part of the sock is going to be from the body to the heel. And then after we finish the gusset, we'll work on the heel, and it's going to be a series of decreases. But for the gusset, you're no longer going to work in the round, you're going to work in rows. So to begin your first row, you're going to start with a chain 1, and then you're going to turn your work around. You're going to skip the chain you just made, and you're going to work into that very first stitch of the row, so the very first extended single crochet. So insert your hook into that stitch and crochet an extended single crochet. So you're going to crochet one extended single crochet. Man, that's really long. You're going to crochet one stitch for every stitch up until you get to the side of the sock. And then you're going to add an additional 2 to 3 stitches so that your sock is going to look like this. So the left side and the right side of the sock should look about the same. So whether it's 2 or 3 stitches, just make it match. And then we can crochet the second row in the gusset. So make sure that you jot down that this is row number 1. Then for row number 2, you're going to chain 1. You're going to turn around and begin on row 2. So again, beginning on that first stitch, so the very first extended stitch, you're going to insert your hook into the stitch and crochet the new one. So you're going to do a total of 5 rows for the gusset. By the time that you are done with the gusset, so after you've crocheted that last row, the length of your sock should measure about 3/4 of that total foot length. Remember that if you make any adjustments to the pattern, jot them down. That way when you make your second sock, it will be the same size. All right, once you reach the end of the row, you're going to work your extended single crochet, and then you're going to jot down it's row number 2, chain 1, turn your work around, and begin again. So I'm going to work a total of 5 rows, and I will see you here again in just a moment. All right, so here's my gusset. It's finished, and this is the point where you would measure it. So measure from the tip of the toe all the way to the top final row of your fabric. Make sure that it is the 3/4 of the total foot length, and then you can begin on the heel. So the heel is going to be worked also in rows, but you're going to have some decreases along the sides to create that rounded heel part. So for this one, we're going to begin our decreases on the first and second stitches, as well as the last 2 stitches of the row. So for the decrease, you're going to insert your hook into that very first stitch of the row. So you're going to work the first and second stitch together. So insert your hook into the first stitch and pull up a loop. And then insert your hook into the second stitch and pull up a loop. When you have 3 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over. You're going to pull through the first 2 loops on the hook, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through the remaining 2 loops. And that is a decrease. You're going to crochet an extended single crochet, no more decreases, until you reach the last 2 stitches of the row. In the last 2 stitches, you will crochet another decrease. So I'll begin here in the stitch right after this, and this is just a regular extended single crochet. I'll get to the end of the row and I'll show you the decrease one more time. So I'm at the last 2 stitches of the row, and this is where we're going to work our final decrease. And it's just for this row. So you insert your hook into the first stitch, pull up a loop, insert your hook into the second stitch, pull up a loop. When you have 3 loops on your hook, you're going to yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over, pull through 2. And that is row number 1. Chain 1, turn your work around. So we began the row with a decrease, so insert your hook into the first stitch, pull up a loop, into the second stitch, pull up a loop, and then yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. I'm going to work extended single crochets until I get to the last 2 stitches of the row, and then I will work another decrease. This will be the end of row 2. You need a total of 6 rows to complete the heel. By the time you complete the heel, your fabric or your sock should measure your total foot length. So that's from the tip of the toe all the way to the back of the heel. After completing all 6 rows, we're going to start to work on the sock height, so the part that goes between your foot up to your ankle, or the leg part of the sock. So here's my sock after I've completed all 6 decrease rows. We're going to work on the height of the sock, or the leg part, and we're going to work on the side of the sock for this section. So working that extended single crochet, we're going to begin in the next stitch. So here's that decrease that we made. Look for the stitch right after it, and that's where you're going to work your first extended single crochet. You're going to work 1 extended single crochet for every stitch along the side of the sock. Once you get to the last stitch along the side, it's going to look like a corner stitch right here. you're going to work your last extended single crochet into that corner stitch, and then you're going to work a slip stitch in the stitch right next to it. So you're going to insert your hook into the stitch right here along the side, or at the top side of the sock, yarn over and pull up a loop. You're going to have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to pull the top loop through the bottom loop, and that is a slip stitch. Now you're going to turn your work around, and you're going to begin your first stitch in the first actual stitch of the row. So that very first one right next to your hook, that's your slip stitch. Work your first extended single crochet in the first extended single crochet of the previous row. Once you get to the heel, we need to add a little bit of height to the sock, so we're going to work some double crochets. But up along the side of the sock, so what we just crocheted as the side, you're going to work an extended single crochet. When you get to the heel, stop there, and I'll show you how to do the double crochets to add just a little bit of height, and then we can move on with the rest of the leg. So I'll start these first 2 stitches with you, and then I'll let you work on the rest of it. So I'm going to insert my hook into that first extended single crochet of the row, and then work 1 single crochet for all of the stitches along the side of the sock. Once you get to the heel, so this back part right here, you're going to work a double crochet into each of the stitches along the heel part. So the double crochet is pretty similar to that extended single crochet we just did, but we're going to add a yarn over at the beginning. So yarn over, and then you're going to insert your hook into this stitch. You're going to yarn over again and pull up a loop. You're going to have 3 loops on your hook, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops, and then yarn over and pull through the 2 remaining loops on the hook. So that was a double crochet. We're going to do this again in the next one. So yarn over, insert your hook into the stitch and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Complete a double crochet in each of the stitches along the heel of the sock. Once you get to the end of the heel, you're going to work the side of the heel the same way we did on the first side. So you're going to begin with the extended single crochets, work your last extended single crochet in that corner stitch, work a slip stitch, and stop at the slip stitch. So I've reached that final stitch, and I just have to work my slip stitch. And then from here on out, we're going to be working in the round. So you've got 3 rounds left. So let me pull this here so you can see it. So for the last 3 rounds, you're just going to work completely in the round. You will need to do decreases on the corner stitches. So right here and on the other side. This is going to close up the sock so that it's a tighter fit along the top part of your heel and along the top part of your ankle. So that way it fits a little bit more comfortably. I'm going to take one of my stitch markers and I'm just going to move it up here, and that way I'll know where my round begins and ends. So to begin the round, you're just going to work extended single crochets along the front part of the sock. So we begin in this next stitch, and that's an extended single crochet. Here I need to zero this out real quick, and then we begin here with the next one and the next one. And when you get to the corner stitches, you're going to work a decrease. So if you take a look right here, you're going to see this little stitch right there. You're going to skip that. That is the slip stitch that you worked in the previous row. You're going to work in the stitch right after that. So these are the 2 stitches you're going to use for your decrease. So insert your stitch into the first one, skip the little slip stitch and go to the next stitch, pull up your second loop, and then work your decrease. So again, you're going to skip the slip stitch and go into the stitch right next to that to pull up your third loop. Once you work your decrease, you're just going to continue to work an extended single crochet all the way until you reach your stitch marker. At the stitch marker, you're going to work another decrease. That will be the end of round 1. You're going to repeat this so that you have a total of 3 rounds. Remember to work a decrease on the corner stitches. The corners are going to round up a little bit with every round you create. So it's not going to look like a corner anymore, but you still have to work those decreases to close up the top of the sock. So with each round, you add 2 decreases, okay? Once you've worked all 3 rounds, try on your sock. Make sure it fits around your ankle how you want it to fit. If you need to add another row or 2, jot that down. That way you can use the same number of rounds for your next sock. We're going to finish the sock with a slip stitch. So once you've completed that last decrease, slip stitch into the stitch right next to it, and you're going to finish your work with a chain 1. The chain is going to make a small knot right here, and that'll help keep all your yarn together. Now cut a nice long tail end of yarn, and you're going to weave that in at the end. You're going to pull your hook out, and you're going to pull out the yarn, tighten the knot, and you're going to need a yarn or a tapestry needle to weave in the ends. So weaving in the ends is really quite simple, and I have a whole tutorial on it if you don't know how. But basically what you're going to do is just sew in a bit of a square shape. You're going to just run along parallel to the stitch. So just insert your needle and then just kind of sew in a bit of a square shape. This is going to hide the tail ends of your yarn, and it's also going to keep your work from unraveling. So if you've got a yarn that's machine washable and you want to throw these socks into the washing machine, it's going to keep your yarn or your sock from falling apart every time you wash it. But there you go. Once you've completed your sock, repeat all of the steps, make a second one, and you're all set to go. If you would like your sock to be all of the same color, because remember I'm using a color changing yarn, just get a solid color yarn and then you'll have matching socks, because these socks, I'll grab a few more, they're not going to be the same. So I did it this way because it's fun, colorful, because these are just house socks. But choose your yarn, you use whichever one you'd like, and you're all set to go. So thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you want to see the full written pattern, I'm going to leave a link for it in the description box below. And if you would like to see any more of my work, you can follow me on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.